Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever wanted to learn something new, like really badly? Maybe it's a cool skill like playing the guitar, coding, or speaking another language. Or maybe it's something you need to learn for school or your job, something you have to master, but no matter how hard you try, it feels like it's taking forever. You're putting in the effort, but it's like your brain just isn't cooperating. Anyone else been there? Because I have, and let me tell you, it's frustrating. But here's the thing. It's not you. It's not that you're not smart enough or that you're a slow learner. It's just that no one ever taught you how to learn. Like, seriously, think about it. In school, they teach us what to learn, dates, facts, formulas, but they never actually teach us how to absorb that information in the best way possible, so we just wing it. And for most of us, that means cramming, repeating, and hoping it sticks. Which, spoiler alert, it usually doesn't. But hey, that's not your fault. You've just been using the wrong tools. The good news? You can flip the script. You can learn faster, like 10 times faster. And it's not about being a genius or having a photographic memory or any of that. It's about using the right strategies, and I'm going to share them with you in this video. These are things I've used myself, things that have helped me go from feeling stuck and overwhelmed to actually enjoying the learning process. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's dive in. I want to start by saying this. Learning is a skill, and like any other skill, you can get better at it. You can train your brain to pick up information faster and retain it longer, just like you can train your body to run faster or lift heavier weights. But here's the kicker. Most of us are stuck using outdated methods that don't do us any favors. You know what I'm talking about, right? Highlighting every sentence in a textbook, rereading the same page 5 times, or watching endless YouTube tutorials without actually doing anything. Trust me, I've been there, and it doesn't work. When I was in college, I used to think the only way to learn was to put in more hours. If I wasn't getting it, I'd just study harder or longer. But what I didn't realize back then is that learning isn't about the time you spend, it's about how you spend that time. Quality over quantity, you know? So let's talk about how to make the most out of the time you're putting in. First, let's get one thing straight. Your brain is like a muscle. It grows stronger when you challenge it, but it also needs rest and the right kind of fuel to perform at its best. That's why one of the biggest game changers for me was understanding how to use something called active learning. Now, stay with me here. This isn't some boring academic term. Active learning just means that instead of passively absorbing information, like watching a video or reading a book, you're actively engaging with it. You're doing something with what you're learning. For example, let's say you're trying to learn a new language. You could sit there and memorize vocabulary words for hours, but you're going to learn way faster if you actually start using those words. Write a sentence, have a conversation, or even talk to yourself in the mirror. Yes, it feels awkward, but it works. Why? Because our brains remember what we do way more than what we just passively see or hear. It's like the difference between watching someone ride a bike and actually getting on the bike yourself. You learn by doing, not by watching. Now let me tell you about something that absolutely blew my mind when I first learned it: the forgetting curve. Basically, there's this phenomenon where we forget most of what we learn within 24 hours if we don't review it. Like, you could spend hours studying today, and by tomorrow it's like you did nothing. Sounds unfair, right? But there's a way to beat it, and it's called spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is basically the idea of reviewing information at just the right intervals so it sticks in your brain long term. Instead of cramming everything into one marathon session, you spread it out. So, for example, if you're studying for an exam, you'd review the material today, then again in 2 days, then a week later, and so on. Each time you review, the information gets stored deeper in your memory. It's like building layers. Each review makes the foundation stronger. You know, when I first started using spaced repetition, I was kind of skeptical. I didn't think it would make that much of a difference. But then I started using it to learn coding. Instead of just grinding through tutorials for hours, I broke things down into smaller chunks. I'd learn a concept, practice it that day, then review it a couple of days later. And you know what? It worked. Things that used to feel impossible started to click. And the best part? I didn't have to spend hours every day. I just needed to be consistent. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by how much you have to learn, try this. Focus on small, consistent steps instead of trying to do everything at once. Another thing that'll completely change the way you learn is understanding how to use feedback. Now, I know feedback can be uncomfortable. It's not fun to hear that you're doing something wrong, especially when you've been putting in a lot of effort. But here's the thing. Feedback isn't criticism, it's data. It's information that helps you improve. The more you embrace it, the faster you'll learn. Let's say you're learning to draw. You could spend hours practicing on your own, but you'll improve way faster if you get feedback from someone who knows what they're doing. They'll point out things you might not even notice, and that'll push you to get better. The same goes for anything else, whether it's writing, playing an instrument, or even public speaking. The key is to use feedback as a tool, not as a judgment. Now I want to talk about something that most people don't think about when it comes to learning: your mindset. I know, it sounds cliche, but hear me out. If you go into something thinking, I'm not good at this or I'll never get it, you're already setting yourself up to fail. Your brain listens to what you tell it. So if you keep telling yourself you're bad at math or you're too old to learn a new skill, guess what? Your brain's going to believe you. But if you flip that script, if you tell yourself, I'm going to figure this out, or every mistake I make is one step closer to getting it right, everything changes. Learning isn't about being perfect. It's about being curious. It's about giving yourself permission to mess up, because that's where the real growth happens. And trust me, you're capable of way more than you think. So, to sum it all up, if you want to learn anything 10 times faster, focus on doing, not just watching. Use spaced repetition to make sure what you're learning actually sticks. Seek out feedback and use it to improve, even if it's uncomfortable. And most importantly, go into it with the right mindset. Learning isn't about being perfect, it's about progress. It's about showing up, trying, failing, and trying again. That's where the magic happens. And look, I get it. Learning something new can feel overwhelming, especially if you've struggled with it in the past. But the fact that you're here watching this means you're already on the right track. You're already taking that first step. So don't stop now. You've got this. All right, I hope this video gave you some new ideas to try. If you found it helpful, let me know in the comments what you're working on learning right now. I'd love to hear about it. And if you're ready to take your learning to the next level, stick around because I've got even more tips coming your way in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.